Hello, this is Joel Harband. Today we'll show you how to use PowerPoint motion paths to create animated narrated videos quickly and easily. You can use the videos for marketing, e-learning, school, and many other uses. What's special is that you can easily make the videos with PowerPoint and SpeechOver alone. We'll be using the method of storyboarding with PowerPoint and SpeechOver. We'll work with a simple example that shows the fundamentals of making animations and gives you the tools to make your own narrated videos with PowerPoint and SpeechOver. Our main character in the video is the bee. The bee will fly to flower, from flower to flower, eat from each flower, and speak about the flower. The bee's speech is added and synced with SpeechOver. Let's see a preview of the final result.
I am Bonnie the bee. A daffodil is yellow. I like water lilies and love hibiscus.
The animation you just viewed was created with PowerPoint and SpeechOver using the method of storyboarding. Storyboarding has been used for years in film animation and is a very powerful method for developing animations. We'll show you how to use it to make great narrated animations. Creating an animation begins with the storyboard. This is a sequence of graphics that represent key events in the story, called keyframes. Each keyframe is associated with a narration text, arranged in the order that they are to appear. Here's a typical storyboard that a designer might create on paper. It represents a sequence of key events in the story, where each event has a graphic called a keyframe, and narration text to be spoken with the keyframe. PowerPoint lets you animate the storyboard, including the narration. You can play the slideshow of the storyboard for a realistic check of the storyboard images, narration, and order, and get approval for your design. Place the sequence of bee graphics on the slide, each bee with a location and orientation that represent a key event in the story. And these are the keyframes of the dynamic storyboard. In the selection pane, we go in and change the PowerPoint shape names of the keyframe graphics to names appropriate to the storyboard, B1, B2, etc. These names help identify and group the effects on the animation pane. Now, you use the narration text for each keyframe to add narration to the keyframe graphics in the order with SpeechOver. I'll show you how to do it. Here, we're seeing the first step that we mentioned, that is putting the bee graphics onto the slide. Here they are, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth bee. And where each bee graphic is placed in the location which is relevant to the story. Here the first bee on the first flower, second bee on the second flower, third bee on the third flower, each one in a position to eat from the flower. Notice that the orientation of the bees has been shifted 90 degrees. First bee is like this, the second bee is 90 degrees counterclockwise, third 90 degrees clockwise, fourth 90 degrees counterclockwise. Now let's open the selection pane from Select. The selection pane shows the names, the PowerPoint shape names of all of the objects on the screen. For example, if I click first B, I will see it's called B1, B2, B3, etc. These names are not the original object names. The original object names are picture 1, 2, 3, 4. But we have come and changed them to B1. The way you change it is just select it on the selection pane and change the name. The reason is, again, to make it a lot easier to identify, group, and handle the effects on the animation pane. The next step in creating the storyboard is to add the narration to each of the keyframe graphics. we display the animation pane on the right side so we can see the effects that are created as we create the narration. To create the narration, use Speech Over, open up Speech Over, select the object to which the narration is to be added, hit New Shape Clip, and the Add Narration Clip to Shape appears. The selection is B1. We'll use the Share on Voice, and now we put in the text for the narration. Click OK, and the narration appears on the animation pane. The effects are the B graphic appear effect, the audio effect for the narration, subtitle effect for the subtitle, and the B disappear effect. We go ahead and add narration to all of the B's. We get and we run it in the slideshow. We get the following.
I am Bonnie the bee. A daffodil is yellow. I like water lilies and love hibiscus.
So this is the animated storyboard. Running it checks the storyboard images, the narration, and the order. Let's look quickly at the effects of the storyboard, animation effects of the storyboard on the animation pane. We see how the names that we assigned, the B1, B2, B3, etc., help us to understand and group the effects. In the B1 effects, we see in this group, and then the second group are the B2 effects, the name B2, B3, and B4. And they follow each other on the timeline in their order. What about making changes? The best time to make changes in your animation design is on the storyboard, before the motion paths are added. You can use Speech Over Clip Organizer to change the playing order of the graphics and change the narration contents. To change the playing order, the narration clips for the graphics appear as rows on the clip organizer, and you use the up-down arrows to change the playing order of the graphics. As for the narration content, select the narration clip to change on the clip organizer. Right-click and select Edit. I'll show you how it's done. First, let's pull up the clip organizer. Here's the clip organizer. You can see that narration clips on shapes, that the narration clips that we assign to the B's are here in rows, B1, B2, B3, B4, in their order. Now if I want to change the order of their playing, let's say I want, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, I want B3 to come before B2, so I select B3. Now I use the up-down arrows to change the order. I do up arrow. Take a look now at the animation pane also. Click. Now you see B3 came before B2, also in the animation pane. Next we'll make a change in the animation itself, selecting the first item, Edit Shape Clip. Let's add a little something to the first speech. Okay. Now we'll run the slideshow for this slide, and we'll look at the order and listen for the change in narration.
I am Bonnie the bee. Have a nice day. I like water lilies. A daffodil is yellow and love hibiscus.
Now that the storyboard is in place, we complete the animation by adding motion pads and emphasis effects between the storyboard keyframes, achieving a continuous motion. The experts call this tweening, from in between. We have three types of motion pads and effects. The arc motion pads to simulate the bee's flight, the spin emphasis effect to rotate the body during the motion, and the teeter emphasis effect to simulate the bee eating the flower. Before I add the tweening effects, let's take a look at the timeline and the order of the effects. The first, according to each B to which the effects will be assigned, first B in the introduction, we have the audio which already exists, and we will put in the arc motion, bringing the bee from the introductory position to the first flower, and at the same time the spin, or the rotate. Then in the first flower, B2 takes over, and we have a teeter effect to simulate the eating, the audio effect, and then the arc motion with the spin, which takes it to the second flower. Then the B3 takes over the second flower, again with the teeter for eating, audio, speaking, and arc and spin to take us to the third flower, where the B4 takes over, teeter, audio, and again arc spin takes us off the screen. We have to do some preliminaries, learning how to create a crosshairs guideline for combining motion paths. This is very important, and PowerPoint does not provide it. These steps are: insert a vertical or horizontal line longer than the largest dimension of the graphic, duplicate the line, rotate the copy 90 degrees, then select both lines and do the two centering operations. One is align center, one is align middle. And then you have your exact crosshairs. You group them together to have a crosshair grouped. And then you duplicate it as needed. Now I'll show you how to do it. First step in constructing the crosshairs is to add a line. Then the next step is to use Control D to duplicate that line. The next step is to rotate that line 90 degrees with arrange rotate right. Now we select both of the lines with the Shift key, and if we arrange, we do the two alignments, align center, and again align middle. That's it. Now we have our crosshairs. Now we take them, make a group. There, that's our crosshairs group. As I said, you save it and you duplicate it as needed. The next thing we have to learn is how to center these crosshairs that we have created on a graphic. This is important because the center of the graphic is where motion graphics start and end. The procedure is select both of them, the crosshairs and the graphic, and do the two aligns, align center and align middle. Notice that the graphic may move from its original position, and so you will have to restore it to move it back. Now I'll show you how this is done. We select the crosshairs and we select the graphic, and then we do arrange, align, center, and align middle. We're finished. Now the crosshair is exactly centered on the center of the graphic. Now we'll use our new crosshaired tool to add arc motion paths between keyframes. The order is like this. First we center crosshairs on each keyframe graphic, each B, and we add dotted guidelines between the crosshaired centers. All this will be removed in the final version. Start like this. Select the first keyframe graphic, the first B, add an arc motion path. The arc appears inside a rectangle with handles and a turner. Begins with a green arrow, ends with a red arrow. Notice the green arrow is exactly in the center of the crosshairs, the exact center of the graphic. That's where PowerPoint puts it. The arc effect appears at the end of the animation pane with the name B1. The arc motion has to come after the video, as we saw in previous slides. So we change it to after previous and drag the arc motion effect from the end of the animation pane to before the B1 disappear effect, which will be after the audio. By the way, you can select the effect on the screen by selecting it on the animation pane. Here's what the arc motion path looks like after we added it and dragged the effect to its position on the animation pane. See here the rectangle enclosing the arc, where the green arrow is the beginning of the arc, the red is at the end. See, the green arrow is exactly on the crosshairs in the center of the graphic, the B graphic. Here we see on the animation pane the B motion path. The timing starts after the end of the audio narration. So that vertical line is the end of the audio narration, the start of the motion path. So we'll start moving after it's finished speaking. Okay, now that we've created the arc motion path, we have to connect the arc to the next B graphic, the second B. We have to bring the ending red arrow of the arc to the crosshair center of the next graphic, with the arc on the right of the diagonal. You can't just drag the arrow, you have to move the arc rectangle by means of its handles and turner, and or change the orientation with effect option. The steps are as follows. We have to, the default arc orientation right now is down. So to get the B to fly down to the left, change orientation to right, which is closer to the desired path, not exactly yet. So we select the art and click Effect Options right. After that, we turn the arc rectangle clockwise till the base of the rectangle coincides with the dotted line, connecting line. The starting green arrow will remain centered on the first graphic as long as you turn it a little at a time. Now you're aligned in terms of angle. You have to grab the middle handle on the bottom of the rectangle, pull it down, and align the red arrow on the crosshairs of the second B. Now the arc connects the keyframe centers. The next step will be to add an arc motion to the second B graphic and connect it to the third. The new arc will automatically start exactly at the end of the first arc, creating a continuous motion. The two arc motions will combine together to make a continuous motion. Now I'll show you the demo of how exactly this is done. Here we see a close-up of the arc that we've created, and see the arrow, the red arrow over here has to get down to the center of the crosshairs on the second B. So the first stage will be to go to the animation and do effect. We're already selected here, so effect options. Right is the best option for us now. That will turn the B in the right direction at least. It's not yet there, but it's in the right direction. Now, again, select on the animation pane. I select the motion, and here it is. The same rectangle, now vertical. Now to get that red arrow over here, we have to rotate with the turner this way, a little bit at a time. And you see the center, the green pops back to the center. Do it a little bit at a time. Go back to the center. Now you see the base of the rectangle here is approaching the dotted line. We have to continue till it gets to the dotted line. Now that's pretty good. Now the angle is right. The arc is at the right angle. Now we grab the middle handle at the bottom of the rectangle and pull it down until the red arrow is just about on the crosshairs. There we go. Okay, so that's the idea. Now we're exactly lined up, and the arc starts in the center of the first B, ends up at the center of the second B. Here's a diagram of the same thing. So with the arc motion connects graphic centers, this one to this one. Now let's see the slideshow of how this looks like.
I embody the bee.
Okay, there you see the B exactly followed the motion path from the first to the second B. Now we'll add the spin emphasis effects. The B keyframes were placed at plus minus 90 degrees, so we need to add the spin emphasis to rotate the graphic 90 degrees during the arc motion to align with the B keyframes. When we add the spin, it appears at the end of the animation pane. The spin effect should take place together with the motion, so we set it to with previous and drag it from the end to after the B arc motion effect. And here's what it looks like on the animation pane. There's selected as the B spin motion, selected as with previous. So it comes after the motion path, the blue one. So you can see the yellow one is exactly in the same time frame as the previous, as the motion one. So it goes together. Now let's see how it looks on the slideshow.
I am Bonnie the bee.
See, it moves along the motion path and rotates. Now it's exactly coinciding with the second B. Finally, we add the teeter emphasis effect for the eating. So we add it starting with B, the second B for his eating. So we add it, and again it appears at the end. Drag it, we change it to with previous, and we drag it to before the audio because the eating occurs before the audio. Okay, the audio itself is after previous. So teeter will occur before it. And we do the same thing for 3 and 4. Now let's see what the final animation looks like after we've added all of these effects. Here's the slideshow.
I am Bonnie the bee. A daffodil is yellow. I like water lilies and love hibiscus.
Okay, let's see it again, and we'll say the effects that are occurring.
I am Bonnie the bee.
This is the audio, the arc, the teeter.
A daffodil is yellow.
The audio, the arc, the teeter.
I like water lilies.
Audio, arc, teeter.
And love hibiscus.
Audio, arc. Now let's summarize the storyboarding animation method that we've used to create the animation. It is using connected motion paths generated from a sequence of keyframe graphics to create an animated, narrated, continuous animation. The advantages are that we can control the exact location and orientation of the keyframe graphics on the background because we're placing it before in the storyboard exactly where it needs to go. User shape names like B1, B2 make it easy to create and manage animation on the animation pane, as we have seen. Easily introduce and sync voice narration using speech over. Easy to make changes in the dynamic storyboard. And easy to add and connect motion paths and body and emphasis effects to achieve a continuous motion. The method is general and can apply it to many different types of animations. Thank you for viewing our presentation. Any further information, please go to our site, speechover.com.